Good afternoon and welcome to all of the school district staff and administrators from across New York State who are joining us as we discuss the all-important topic of school safety. My name is Michelle Smith-Hook and I will be the moderator today. Schools have long been entrusted to provide safe and healthy learning environments for our children. Communities across the nation face instances of severe weather, winter storms, suicides, sudden deaths, and act of violence every single day. As a result, our leaders respond with action and policies aimed at protecting school children. Let's hear from Deputy Commissioner Cosimo Tangora. He is the Junior Deputy Commissioner for the New York State Education Department.
Good afternoon. Every day, parents and guardians across New York State send their children to school trusting they will be protected and kept safe from harm. We ensure the safety of our students through the policies and procedures that we put into place and the work that we do with our communities. One of the most important elements of that work is the annual task of updating and revising our school building emergency operating plans. This essential work is best accomplished when supported by the leadership at the district level and includes key community partners in law enforcement. Boards of education and district leaders not only provide time for updating school plans, they also provide time for training and drilling, time well spent if and when a crisis were to take place. When adults and students know what to do and what not to do during an emergency, they are able to take some control over an otherwise chaotic situation. Being prepared for the crisis is only half of the plan. Knowing how and when to return to normal after an emergency is a critical stage in the community healing process. Our emergency plans need to focus on the best outcomes for students and staff, not only during, but after a crisis as well. This includes returning to the business of providing educational services as quickly after an incident or emergency as possible. I want to take this time to thank you for all the work that you do on behalf of the children of New York State in an effort to provide them with the best education possible and in the safest setting we can offer. We live in times that are often unpredictable and sometimes frightening. I, for one, take comfort in the fact that dedicated people like you are working in schools across the state for the benefit of our children and the common good.
In the year 2000, Safe Schools Against Violence in Education, or as it's better known, Project SAVE legislation, required schools across New York to develop safety plans, both at the district-wide and building level, to plan for safer schools. An important partner in developing these plans are your local law enforcement representatives. Joseph D'Amico, the superintendent of the New York State Police, wanted to thank you for your dedication to these efforts and has some tips as you begin the process of constructing and reviewing those plans.
I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to view this webinar today. The safety of all of our children attending schools across New York State is a priority for all of us here at State Police. School safety is an issue that affects us all, upstate, downstate, rural, and urban communities. Schools are an integral part of every community, and together we can make them a safe place for learning and childhood development. I want to encourage you to take time to review and update your school safety plan with members of your building staff using the tools that you'll learn about during this webinar, and not just once, but every year. Attending this session today is a good first step, but don't let this be the only step in your preparation. It will take hard work and the participation of every member of your staff. During your planning, invite local law enforcement and first responders to be part of the process. The first time you meet us shouldn't be in a crisis. Even if you know your local law enforcement, take time to forge new relationships with those men and women that you may not know. Once you've established these relationships, take time to drill your plan, make sure it works, and invite the first responders to participate with you. Try out your plan under all types of scenarios, in different locations, different times of year, and with different staff involved. Then when your plan is finalized, don't forget to submit these plans to the State Police and to our state school safety team. Not only is it required by law, but it will help us help you to be better prepared and to assist in times of crisis. We're here to work with you, and together I know that we can provide our children with the safest learning environment.
We all know incidents can happen at any time, at any school, anywhere. A school building near Poughkeepsie had such an experience. Let's hear about it from Principal Lauren Guerrero.
Prior to being a building principal of an elementary building, I was an assistant principal at Van Wyck Junior High School, also within the Wappingers district, and we had the unfortunate but serious incident of a chemical spill, and it was as real could get. We followed ICS 100 Incident Command System. Our principal was actually at a meeting over at central office, and he did, make it back as soon as he could, along with the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, to be on site for the event. And as we unrolled with ICS 100, we followed incident command the whole way through. We did have a safety plan in place. We followed the safety plan. We activated all of our safety team members, and basically we were able to continue instruction in certain areas of the building. But at the same time, you have men coming in their hazmat suits ready to go to make sure that the science lab was clear. And for those of you that are in a middle school or a high school, I can't emphasize enough how one of your threats and hazards annexes really should be how to handle a chemical spill, because it's very real, it's very possible that it could happen. It happened to us, so learn from us, and definitely make sure that that part of your plan is in place.
And New York continues to work to improve school safety by continually reviewing our schools' current level of readiness. At the federal level, the U.S. Departments of Education, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, and Justice, along with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, are all working together to build upon proven safety and emergency principles already well established and practiced in protecting Americans. Now concurrent to the work being done at the national level, New York State is taking similar reviews of its capacity. Numerous public safety agencies are contributing to this effort. Using existing state resources and with the help of many organizations and associations, work on 2 projects is now underway. The first project is the New York State School Safety Improvement Team. This team works to review existing building level safety plans, identify gaps, and seeks common areas for improvement. The second initiative is the New York State Regents Safe Schools Task Force, reestablished in 2013 and is coordinated by the New York State Education Department. The task force is comprised of approximately 60 experts from across the state, with representatives from school officials and personnel, parents, education advocates, union representatives, community health, mental health, social services, and law enforcement personnel. Their recommendations, recently presented the New York State Board of Regents, will be shared with all of you later in this webcast. Joining us now to talk directly about the state's action plans are Nora Cronin from the Governor's Office of Public Safety, Renee Ryder, Assistant Commissioner of New York State Education, and Captain John Agresta from the New York State Police. All of our guests are members of the improvement team and the task force. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's begin with you, Nora. Project SAVE legislation sets standards for school safety here in New York. What has changed that is going to directly affect our audience?
Well, Michelle, thank you very much. I think we've all learned some valuable lessons in the past decade since Project SAVE, which was a landmark piece of legislation, was signed. Project SAVE in 2000 set the first standard, the first obligation for us to create school safety plans, both at the building and district-wide level. Then in 2013, as you've already mentioned, schools were asked to submit plans for review to our school safety team. And we've now asked the New York State Police to review those plans and to determine the status of the plans on file. We'd like to have every school submit their plans to New York State Police so that we can provide the best opportunity for protecting our schools.
And let's be clear about what exactly happens when a school submits that plan. Can you clarify that a bit?
Yes, I understand that there's 2 separate plans that need to be submitted. There's the district-wide plan and the building level plan. Schools are required to file their building level plan with both local law enforcement and the New York State Police. Building plans are confidential. There's a public safety security exemption which protects these plans. District-wide plans are open for public review, and these district plans are also the ones that are filed with the Commissioner of the New York State Education Department.
All right, thank you very much, Nora. Captain Agresta, what did the improvement team discover based on your work in this area?
Well, the New York State Safety Improvement Team went out and they spoke to school superintendents, teachers, school board associations, anyone that had a stake in school safety. And we basically heard the same thing, that the process of putting these school building safety plans together are complex, they're time consuming. These are educators, they have a limited background in incident command principles, and that they're inundated from private companies offering to build these plans for them at a substantial cost. We also discovered that they're not using the same terminology when it comes to things like lockdown, and that they're not alone. We're hearing this all over the state.
So there's obviously some challenges here. What's the school improvement team doing to address some of these issues?
Well, the New York State Safety Improvement Teams, right now we're collecting current and best practices, and many of them you can see right on our website, which is safeschoolsnewyork.newyork.gov. And we're looking to found that FEMA was already working on the same issues that we've discovered, and we discovered that they had just updated their curriculum in regards to emergency response plans. And the safety improvement team, decided that really at the core of this is that we need to standardize response plans. And we discovered that since their curriculum was just updated, we sent a team down to the FEMA Academy in Maryland. The safety improvement team went down with members of the building safety improvement team of Wappingers Falls School District. They spent 5 days down there learning multi-hazard emergency operations plannings for schools, and it turned out to be very beneficial for the school district and for the members of the New York State Safety Improvement Team.
All right, thank you, Captain Agresta. And on that note, let's hear what Lauren Guerrero from the Wappingers Falls Central School District had to say about her FEMA experience.
So we went down to FEMA at the end of July. We went as a team of administrators from the Wappingers with some representatives from New York State, and we stayed about a full week on campus. And while the training was pretty intense, we went down with our safety plan already in place. So I definitely recommend that if you're going to go to a FEMA training, you go prepared and have your work done ahead of time. And we had our safety plan prepared. And so the training was broken down into 3 parts. The first part was the functional annex, the first part was the basic plan. And then the second part were the functional annexes. And the third part was the threat and hazard annexes. And the training took the course of the week, and each day we got more and more training. We role played with scenarios. There were other states there from throughout the United States. And then at the end of the day, we would have time to tweak our plan to make changes based on what we found from FEMA. And so that's basically what we did for the week. And then in coming back, we have since fine-tuned the plan with a couple more changes. I met with my safety team at the very start of the school year at Evans Elementary School and rolled it out to them and talked to them about some of the changes, what the work was like over the summer. And now we're really pushing forward with our new plan.
Captain Agresta, let's talk a little bit more about this training because it seems interesting. Will other school districts be able to receive the benefits of this course?
Yes, we've invited FEMA to come up to the New York State Center for Preparedness, and we're going to have a total of 75 BOCES health and safety officers along with members of the New York State Police who are going to be trained in this course. And then later on in January, we'll be announcing regional meetings. So schools that are interested in this, in their area, will be able to get training from those 75 individuals. And then afterwards, those people will be there to support the schools so that they can put their emergency response plans into place.
All right, thank you, Captain Agresta. Seems like it would be very beneficial. Now, in addition to the Safe Schools Improvement Task Force, another team is working to make recommendations for change. Joining us from the New York State Education Department is Renee Ryder, the Assistant Commissioner of the Office of Student Support Services, who coordinates the New York State Board of Regents Safe Schools Task Force. Thanks for joining us and welcome, Renee. Renee, please tell us a little bit about the work of the task force.
Well, thank you, Michelle. The New York State Safe Schools Task Force was reestablished in January of 2013, and that was immediately after the tragedy that occurred in December of 2012 in Newtown, Connecticut, the shootings at Sandy Hook Elementary School. So the Board of Regents met the following month in January of 2013 and directed the State Education Department to reestablish the task force. The co-chairs of the task force are the Vice Chancellor of the Board of Regents, Anthony Botar, and our Commissioner, John King. And it's comprised of over 60 experts from across the state, representing school officials, school personnel, parents, education advocates, law enforcement, state agencies such as those here today on our webinar, among others.
Talk about some of the things that the task force has done since it's been reestablished.
Sure. The kickoff meeting was in May of 2013, and that is when we established the 3 work groups that would guide our work. And those work groups are the School Culture and Student Engagement Work Group, the Data Use and Reporting Work Group, and the Building Security and Infrastructure Work Group. And one of the first tasks at hand was to create a vision statement for the Safe Schools Task Force, which is as follows. The school environments in New York State will effectively promote and protect the well-being of all students and personnel each day and into the future. And this next slide tells a little bit more detail about the activities to date, but we really want to point out the student forum that we held in February, because the student voice matters, and the student perspective helped us develop some recommendations that we incorporated into the full set of recommendations for the task force. Now, the task force met last month with the Board of Regents to present the 36 recommendations. And if the viewers would like to see those 36 recommendations, you will see them on your screen at our website.
All right, thanks very much, and you can see the web address is right there on your screen. Thank you, Renee. Now, Captain Agresta, I'd like to change things a little bit now and talk a little bit about how we improve emergency planning in our schools here in New York.
Well, first, the most important is we got to make sure that our plans are up to date, that they're thorough, and that they meet the current statutes required or obligated by New York State law. And then we need to ensure that we're standardizing the terms like lockdown, lockout, and shelter in place. And that way, administrators, as they move from different school districts, or teachers move from different school districts, or even the students as they move from one building to another, if an emergency is called, they understand what's going on and what the responsibility is in that type of emergency.
Now, I know that standardizing the terminology is an area that's near and dear to your heart. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, yes, lockdown. Lockdown is the most serious case scenario. It's an imminent threat of, or a potential of violent incident, and schools need to take, people need to take that responsibly and seriously, and they need to move quickly. And the whole purpose behind the lockdown is to move people into a safe location away from the threat. And the quicker they do it, the more chance that will reduce the number of injuries or death. And what I'm seeing is schools are starting to mix the terminology up. They're even what I call hybrids. They're starting to use words or terms like a soft lockdown. And really, it's either lockdown, shelter in place, lockout.
Okay, thanks very much. Now, I know our viewers are probably wondering what the next steps are in their emergency operations planning. Can you explain what they should do next?
Well, right now, we're developing a new emergency response plan. I call it a template. And basically, what this template does is it helps standardize the emergency response plans. It standardizes the terminologies that we would use across the state. It spells out for those that are working on the emergency response plans how to fill it out to make it easier for the individuals that are doing it. It's got tells you when you're supposed to submit the plan, where to submit the plan to, so it gets eliminates some of the confusion that's out there. And it's scalable, so depending on the size of the district, they can use it. And it meets all the state legislature mandates, it meets the ICS standards, and it has all the FEMA best practices included in it.
So for schools, this sounds like a heavy lift. What's being done to assist them in this process?
Well, those 75 individuals I spoke about earlier that are receiving the training at the State Preparedness Center, they're also going to be taught how to use this template. And then they'll be able, like I said, to go out in these January meetings and bring the schools in, teach them how to use the template. They'll be there afterwards for the schools to answer any questions. There's no cost for the template, and we're going to ask that the school districts bring 2 or 3 people, preferably from their school safety team, to this training, and we'll go from there. And just look on our website, safeschools.ny.gov, for more information.
So if they're interested in using the template, what's the first thing they need to do?
Well, they should get their school safety building teams together, and they should take a look at their plans.
That actually brings up a good point. Who should be on that building safety team?
Well, there should be an administrator on the team. There should be a representative for the teachers. There should be a representative for the parents associations. There should be law enforcement. The local ambulance service, local emergency responders should be on that. Section 2801 of the education law states who exactly has to be on the team as deemed appropriate by the school commissioner.
And they've put their team together. What's the first thing they need to do?
Once they put the team together and they meet, they should take a look at the emergency response plan, determine if it's up to date. They should decide if they are going to update it. I would hope that they would go to this template for standardizing it. If they believe their plan is adequate and meets all the state legislative mandates, then by law they send it to their local law enforcement. That could be their local PD, local sheriff, and the state police. And on top of that, it also still has to come to the state police, and they can send it to the mailing address, which is listed, New York State Police Headquarters, Field Command, attention to the school safety team, and that's 1220 Washington Avenue, Building 22 in Albany, New York.
And they can also email this plan, right, to info@safeschools.ny.gov?
That's correct.
Great. Finally, what should the building level safety plan team do to prepare to start training on that template?
Well, they should start by looking at the, FEMA has a couple of courses, and it's on their FEMA's website, and that's going to be, there's two courses, IS-100 SC, which has to do with incident command systems for schools, and it's a 3-hour course. It talks about the ICS principles in the event of emergency, how to work with that. And the second one is G362A, which is a multi-hazard emergency operating plan for schools, which offers information about developing, implementing, and maintaining the emergency operation plans.
All right, all very good information. Hopefully it would be very helpful to our school districts. Let's hear again from Principal Guerrera, who has some final words of advice for us.
If I could give some advice to fellow administrators or school districts or even school safety teams, it would definitely be to meet regularly. We meet once a month. On our school safety team, we include community partners, so we do have active involvement and participation from law enforcement in our drills. We practice drills regularly. We train, we prepare, we plan. I would say probably the 3 most important things are to be planned, plan it all out, train, and then practice as real. Drill, drill, drill as much as possible. And so for us, in Wappingers, I can speak to that. Our first lockdown drill is announced, and then after that, we do 1 a quarter for the remainder of the school year. So that's 3 additional. They're all unannounced. And law enforcement is actively involved. We have great relationships with our community partners. New York State Trooper Christy Wilson is personally on my safety team. She meets regularly with my team monthly. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have a strong relationship with law enforcement. They can say the things that I want to say to my staff at safety team meetings, but it's so much stronger coming from them because that's their background. Did I take FEMA? Yes. Have I been there? Have I done ICS 100? Sure. But it's not the same. So I can't emphasize that enough. I would definitely make sure that you have an active school safety plan. I would take a look at the FEMA principles to guide you in your safety planning. Having been through that experience, it was wonderful, very eye-opening, and it really made our plan a lot stronger than it currently is. And then, again, drill, practice is real. I mean, it's something that we all hope we never have to experience in school administration, but the more prepared we are, the more we practice, the more we'll be better able to handle something if it comes our way.
All very good advice. I'd like to thank Lauren, and I'd also like to thank all of our guests, Nora Cronin, Renee Ryder, and John Agresta, for sharing all of their expertise with us here today. And of course, a big thank you goes out to all of you across New York State who took the time out of your very busy schedule to join us this afternoon. Remember, you can email your current building level plan to the New York State Police at this web address, info@safeschools.ny.gov, or you can mail the building level emergency operations plan to the address on your screen, New York State Police Headquarters Field Command. Attention School Safety Assessment, 1220 Washington Avenue, Building 22, Albany, New York, 12226. And thank you all again for joining us today. Everyone have a great evening. Take care.